This video will provide a model for settling on the most ideal decisions. A few choices are easy and to the point that you're barely aware you're making them, while others are tedious, high danger, and can leave you feeling restless. Choices can represent the deciding moment in an undertaking or a whole business. Also, they frequently include perplexing and flighty relational issues. In this video, we investigate a 7-stage approach for improving the nature of your dynamic, and for boosting your odds of a fruitful result. To try not to settle on a terrible choice, you need to bring a scope of dynamic abilities together in an intelligent and requested cycle. We suggest the accompanying 7 stages. 1. Investigate the situation in detail. 2. Create a constructive environment. 3. Generate good alternatives. 4. Explore your options. 5. Select the best solution. 6. Evaluate your plan. 7. Communicate your decision, and take action. We should take a gander at every one of these means in detail. Each progression includes a rundown of related psyche instruments assets to help you further. Stage 1. Investigate the situation in detail. Decisions often fail because key factors are missed or ignored from the outset. So, before you can begin to make a decision, you need to fully understand your situation. Start by considering the decision in the context of the problem it is intended to address. You need to determine whether the stated problem is the real issue, or just a symptom of something deeper. Look beyond the obvious. It may be that your objective can be approached in isolation, but it's more likely that there are a number of interrelated factors to consider. Changes made in one department, for example, could have knock-on effects elsewhere, making the change counterproductive. Step 2. Create a constructive environment for your decision. Can you give your decision the attention it needs? Spend some time preparing yourself before diving into the facts and figures. Remember that most decisions will affect other people too, so it helps to create a constructive environment in which to explore the situation together and gain support. This is especially true when you have to rely on other people to implement a decision that you're responsible for. You'll need to identify who to include in the process and who will be part of any final decision-making group, which will ideally comprise just 5 to 7 people. Enable people to contribute to the discussions without any fear of the other participants rejecting them and their ideas. Make sure that everyone recognizes that the objective is to make the best decision possible in the circumstances, without blame. Step 3. Generate good alternatives to decide between. The wider the options you explore, the better your final decision is likely to be. Generating a number of different options may seem to make your decision more complicated at first, but the act of coming up with alternatives forces you to dig deeper and to look at the problem from different angles. This is when it can be helpful to employ a variety of creative thinking techniques. These can help you to step outside your normal patterns of thinking and come up with some truly innovative solutions. Brainstorming is probably the most popular method of generating ideas, but for more tips on how to examine your situation from new perspectives, and how to organize ideas into manageable themes and groups, you can utilize tools like slip writing techniques and affinity diagrams. Step 4. Explore your options. When you're satisfied that you have a good selection of realistic alternatives, it's time to evaluate the feasibility, risks and implications of each one. Almost every decision involves some degree of risk. You'll need a structured approach for assessing threats and evaluating the probability of adverse events occurring, and what they might cost to manage. You'll also want to examine the ethical impact of each option, and how that might sit with your personal and organizational values. Step 5. Select the best solution. Once you've evaluated the alternatives, the next step is to make your decision. If you have various criteria to consider, use decision matrix analysis to compare them reliably and rigorously. Or, if you want to determine which one should carry most weight in your decision, conduct a paired comparison analysis. If your decision is being made within a group, techniques such as multi-voting and the modified board account can help your team reach an agreement. When anonymity is important, decision makers dislike one another, or there is a tendency for certain individuals to dominate the process, use the Delphi technique to reach a fair and impartial decision. This uses cycles of anonymous, written discussion and argument, managed by a facilitator. Participants do not meet, and sometimes they don't even know who else is involved. Step 6. Evaluate your plan. After all the effort and hard work you've invested in evaluating and selecting alternatives, it can be tempting to forge ahead at this stage. But now, more than ever, is the time to sense-check your decision. After all, hindsight is great for identifying why things have gone wrong, but it's far better to prevent mistakes from happening in the first place. Before you start to implement your decision, take a long, Dispassionate look at it to be sure that you have been thorough, and that common errors haven't crept into the process. Your final decision is only as good as the facts and research you use to make it. Make sure that your information is trustworthy, and that you've done your best not to cherry-pick data. This will help you avoid confirmation bias, a common psychological bias in decision-making. Discuss your preliminary conclusions with important stakeholders to enable them to spot flaws, make recommendations, and support your conclusions. Listen to your own intuition, too, and quietly and methodically test assumptions and decisions against your own experience. Step 7. Communicate your decision, and take action. Once you've made your decision, you need to communicate it to everyone affected by it in an engaging, informative and inspiring way. Get them involved in implementing the solution by discussing how and why you arrived at your decision. The more information you provide about risks and projected benefits, the more likely people will be to support it. If people point out a flaw in your process as a result, have the humility to welcome their input and review your plans appropriately. It's much better to do this now, cheaply, than having to do it expensively, and embarrassingly, if your plans have failed. This is the end of this video. Don't forget to subscribe our channel and give a thumbs up for this video. Your comments shall be highly appreciated. Take good care of yourself and people around you. Goodbye.